What is happening at JGamer Dude here, and this is going to be a sad story, not for PlayStation gamers, but for older PlayStation gamers, a very specific type of PlayStation gamer. PlayStation gamers who have actually grown up and actually played on the PSP specifically, because Meta is shutting down Ready at Dawn Studios. Now, Ready at Dawn is actually not a particularly well-known studio, even in the PlayStation lineage, and especially when you're looking back at older titles. But if you had a PSP, no doubt you would have played one of their games, because they made some of the more premier PSP games that released, most, I guess, premier, but really first party PlayStation games that released on PSP actually came from these guys. So just to kind of give you an idea, I did bring up the Wikipedia for Ready at Dawn Studios, and the games that they've kind of released are as follows. So we did get Daxter, which was an exceptionally good side game to the Jak and Daxter series. Of course, I think, in my opinion, Jak X is definitely the weakest game of the lot, but you've got Jak and Daxter 1, 2, 3, so you're Jak 2, Jak 3, and then you've got Daxter, which are really good. I would say Jak and Daxter Lost Frontier is actually not really that good. Then you've got God of War Chains of Olympus, which was, again, these two games, I don't know if they just helped or they originally developed it. They also ported Okami to Wii. Then we get another original title on the PSP, God of War Ghost of Sparta. So Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta are the two portable God of War games. They're still better than Ascension. Ascension, I think, is probably the worst God of War game, because they tried to lean too much into the multiplayer aspect of whatever they were trying to do. Personally, I hadn't played Ascension, but if you know God of War, you probably know it as 1, 2, 3, 2018 and Ragnarok. So 2018 and Ragnarok being the two newest games in the series, but in between there, the next lot you would think of should be Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta. And of course, God of War Origins Collection is actually a re-release of the PS2 God of War games. I don't know if it's just 1 and 2, or if it's 1, 2, as well as Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta for PS3. But yeah, Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta did actually come out on PS3 as well, but maybe as a separate God of War collection. And the last original release that they did as a PlayStation exclusive was the Order 1886. Though looking back at things now, I feel like people want more the Order 1886s now than ever before. Reason being is that the Order 1886 is an exceptionally good looking game that is short by about 4 to 6 hours in terms of actual game time. So people were criticizing its length being one of the main reasons for why it has an incredibly low Metacritic score. That, and also the fact that the gameplay was a standard third-person shooter that didn't really add too much, and the werewolves that were advertised for the actual show being the supernatural element in the game. You only fight werewolves twice, and they are the two boss fights in the game, and honestly, they're the exact same fights, so you're not really getting anything too spectacular there. And it is actually a pretty easy game, though I can see them trying to do quite a lot there in the actual story department. I can see that they're actually trying to do something pretty cool, seemingly, but obviously that never really panned out, and surely the game must have gone through development hell to some extent. That being said, overall it is a pretty weak game quality wise, but the general idea that people want more shorter games now than ever before because of how much more expensive games are to make currently. That being said, after that they made Deformers, which was actually not a particularly good game, though I do have it myself. I'm just yet to jump back into it. And then they did the Echo games, being Lone Echo, Echo Arena, Echo Combat, and Lone Echo 2. I think they were bought out by Meta after Echo Arena, I want to say. When were they bought by? So yeah, Radio Dawn released Lone Echo and Echo Arena exclusively to Oculus Rift. Echo Arena has been included in VR League, a VR esports segment of the ESL. That's interesting to know. And the acquisition happened in 2020, so that would have been before Lone Echo 2, but after Echo Combat, which is interesting to see. So it's clear that they were kind of in the VR development space after that point. But I also feel like I can't help but look at this and think that it's probably because VR wasn't doing particularly well that it's kind of led to this point. They do make quality games. They have a great lineage. They just have a couple of missteps with the Order and Deformers. But they do have some really good, really, how would I say, talented individuals that were part of that studio. And I don't know how many people who have actually been through, the ringer from 2006. But with that being said, going from portable gaming to then console gaming to then VR, like, you really need to have a lot of really technically savvy individuals to be able to develop in the sort of multitude of different ways. And even the last game that they released on a portable console was God of War Ghosts of Sparta on PSP. So if anyone's been there for at least 10 to 13 years, or 13 or so years, like, they've been through that ringer. So it's just interesting to see what they've kind of done, both as like so it's funny because I don't know if people knew about this. There's this thing called XDev, or External Development something or other. I can't remember exactly what it's called. And Ready at Dawn was part of that. So pretty much what Sony was doing with XDev is they were allowing external developers to publish games through Sony and presenting those as first-party titles. I'm pretty sure God of War Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta were definitely part of that. I don't know if Daxter was though. But with that being said, it's also very similar to what the developers of Returnal did, where they released games like, what's it called? Dead Nation, Super Stardust HD, Super Stardust Delta, and just games like that. And of course they released a good number of games before being purchased by Sony, so I was kind of hoping that, eventually Ready at Dawn would be purchased by Sony, but Sony never ever made the move. Was it possible that it was because of the results of the way in which the Order 1886 was ultimately received? Who knows? But at the end of the day, that was supposed to be like a big release for the PS4, but it definitely just did not, it didn't do that well, unfortunately. And I don't think anyone really heard of Ready at Dawn since. They've done some good stuff. It's just really sad and unfortunate to see what's happened to them by them being shut down. What I would say for sure is that it's not worth actually, how would I put it this way? Shutting down a company, like, no company ever truly deserves to be shut down, even if they do the worst thing ever, because there will always be a possibility that people can actually make things improve. Like, when you're absolutely at rock bottom, the only way to go is up, and that's what I've kind of hoped for with Ready at Dawn. After the release of Order 1886, it's like, okay, this is the worst thing that you guys have done. The only way from here is up. And technically that's true if it weren't for Deformers, with its Metacritic score being 3 below. 3 below, being 63 for Order and 60 for Deformers. Though that being said, it's still a relatively fun time if you don't think too hard about it. But yeah, with all of that being said, let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. I'm especially interested by individuals who actually have been around the block with PlayStation, specifically with the PSP. Because that's where I remember the Ready at Dawn logo. That's where I remember Ready at Dawn, is those two God of War games and Daxter. Specifically Daxter, because when you boot up the game, that's, like, the first thing that I see is the Ready at Dawn logo. At least that's what I remember, because it's blue, bright, and I really like the look of their logo. That being said, I would be interested to know from people who have actually played on the PSP, and specifically these games, do you think that Ready at Dawn, really deserved to be shut down? Do you think that it would have been cool to have had an alternative universe or an alternate universe where Sony actually bought them? And do you think they would probably be working on similar stuff to what we would expect Bluepoint to be doing, which is remaking already existing games and then going off to then make more original stuff after the fact? you know, there's a lot of questions out there and a lot of thoughts there, but I would be interested to know all of these things in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it. If you think I deserve a few bucks, you can toss them my way through my Patreon link in the description below. And I do upload videos every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.